Australia is a land of extremes. From scorching deserts to steaming jungles and wind-battered islands. It is a tough place to survive. But there are some animals that dominate each and every one of these extreme habitats. The snakes. Stealth, aggression, deception, and deadly venom make them top predators right across the country. This is the story of Australia's snakes and how they have evolved to thrive on one of the harshest continents on Earth. Over 70% of Australia's landmass is desert. With temperatures soaring to 50 degrees Celsius and water scarce, it's a brutal place to live. But some have it all figured out. More reptiles live on the continent than anywhere else on the planet. They are armed for the battle of desert life, especially those that bear chemical weaponry. The snakes. This female inland taipan is on the hunt. In a place where there is little chance for sustenance, any opportunity to eat must be seized swiftly. Bearing the deadliest venom of all the world's snakes, this taipan's bite can paralyze and kill prey in just seconds. But first she must locate a target. Highly specialized receptors on her tongue enable her to detect food. At last, the scent of a meal. A plains mouse. The taipan picks up on the rodent's chemical cues and follows the trail. Her elongated body enables her to slip easily into her prey's retreat. There is nowhere for the rodent to hide. She strikes and retreats. A hunting method exclusive to taipan. By avoiding a fight, they conserve precious energy. In just seconds, the taipan's venom is already taking effect on her victim. While neurotoxins induce immediate paralysis, hemotoxins damage the circulatory system. In moments, her prey is lifeless, and her feast can begin. Devouring the rodent head first helps it slip down easily. Using her fangs, she pushes the meal along. Although the taipan's venom ensures a swift kill, it takes a lot of energy to produce. So it's vital her stores are replenished for future hunts. She detects more sustenance in the burrow. Her smooth, silent scales allow for a stealthy approach. A meal of this size could trigger reproduction. Female taipans can store the sperm of a male for up to a year. The fertilization process only occurring once food is in high supply. With any luck, this will provide her the energy to bring the next generation into the world. In the sparse Australian desert, it's not only food that's scarce, shelter is too. 2 months later, the female has laid her eggs. By choosing an abandoned animal burrow, she gives her young the best chance of survival. For down here, her eggs are out of sight from other hungry reptiles. She won't return to the burrow. The eggs have all the nutrients her young need to develop. And when they hatch, juveniles emerge strong and ready to fend for themselves. Right from birth, they're armed with venom as potent as an adult's. Weaponry to help ensure their survival as they enter the desert for the first time. In this environment, it's a baptism by fire. The moment the young emerge, they are fair game for predators. On the wing and on the ground. The king brown snake has rightly earned its name. Not only is it the largest venomous snake on the continent, growing up to 3 meters long, it's also a cannibal. The king locks on to the scent of the taipan juvenile. To maximize its chance of survival in the arid interior, the king brown has evolved a resistance to venom. Deadly inland taipans are a meal of choice. The juvenile lashes out, but its venom has no effect. The king sinks its fangs into the youngster and chews to inject its own deadly venom. Although deadly weaponry is a valuable asset in this desert battleground, it still doesn't guarantee a place at the top of the food chain. Because out here, the hunter can easily become the hunted. Australia's largest lizard, the parenti, is after its fill. Weighing in at a huge 20 kilograms, it needs something substantial. It's usually a scavenger, but with slim pickings, it'll take on a king brown to satisfy its hunger. Rearing up on its hind legs gives the parenti a distinct advantage when hunting. A clear view of its prey. The snake's deadly reputation is no deterrent. Through millions of years of coevolution, the parenti has also evolved an immunity to venom. Most lizards lack speed, but the parenti is fit for the chase. Bellows in its throat deliver vital oxygen to its lungs, powering a pursuit towards its prey. The parenti grasps the snake in its strong venom-laced jaws. An aggressive strike disorientates the parenti, giving its victim the chance to escape. To stay and fight for the meal would be a risk. It would use up precious energy. Sometimes, it is better to walk away. While many snakes have evolved to survive the country's desolate interior, others dominate a severely different landscape. Australia's northeast is home to the wet tropics region, a pocket of lush jungle that accounts for less than 1% of the landmass. The forest is a portal, back to a time when Australia was once covered in jungle. Many of the animals still live in the same way they did millions of years ago, like the southern cassowary, a descendant of the dinosaurs, the world's largest reptiles. There's a higher concentration of reptiles in these forests than anywhere else in the country. They house over 30% of Australia's snake species, including the notorious amethystine python, otherwise known as the king of the jungle. Growing up to 8 meters in length, the amethystine outsizes the crocodile. Their strong, muscular bodies are their lethal weapon. Unlike the desert snakes, pythons are venom-less. When they find a meal, they strangle it to death. Recent studies reveal that pythons made their way to Australia from Asia 23 million years ago, many becoming forest specialists. In this dense environment, the amethystine has finely tuned senses that enable it to home in on a meal, even in the dead of night. As the python hunts, it relies not on eyesight, but infrared sensors. Pit organs located on its head detect the heat of warm-blooded creatures. Sensing a meal nearby, the python uses its taste to zero in. At last, dinner. A forest rat. All that's left to do is to time the strike right. There is no escaping the deadly coils of a 30-kilogram predator. The python consumes the rat whole. Until recently, how they digest a meal of such size was relatively unknown. But breakthrough studies have revealed the snake's metabolism will increase up to 40 times, and their vital organs will momentarily double in size to manage the rapid influx of calories. It's a satisfying feast, well worth the effort. While the amethystine python may be known as the king of the jungle, further south in the country's temperate forests, where eucalypt trees dominate the landscape, there's a snake known as the king of the bush. The fearsome red-bellied black snake. These highly venomous snakes predominantly inhabit the east coast of Australia. They are skilled predators in the water and on land. Nothing beneath the water's surface is safe. especially from a male during breeding season. Traveling vast distances in search of a female, this male is ravenous. He stirs up the creek sediment, a clever ploy to flush out prey. There's no safety on dry land for this spotted marsh frog. The snake follows the trail of its prey's chemical cues. With finely tuned hearing, the frog detects danger and scrambles for cover. But out of sight is not out of mind for the snake. He's so close, he can taste it. The fangs deliver a paralyzing blow, and the snake wastes no time making a meal of its victim. Captive red-bellied black snakes have been known to regurgitate live frogs, which suggests, although consumed, this snake's meal may still be alive. With fuel for the journey ahead, the male continues its search for a female. But he hits a roadblock. Another red-bellied black snake has claimed this patch of turf as his own. The resident male arcs up. By raising his forebody in a threatening display, he wards the intruder off. But it seems the intruder is prepared to hold ground. Combat will determine who gets the right to mate with nearby females. To win this game, he must hold the first male down long enough to assert dominance. The intruder sinks his fangs into his opponent. Immune to one another's venom, it's a ploy to keep the other grounded. But the resident male is not giving up his territory easily. He ferociously bites the intruder. Battles may last up to half an hour. But not today. The resident male has come out on top, leaving the intruder to seek a female elsewhere. Although Australia's snake species are perhaps most famous for being land predators, there are some that have carved out their niches under the sea. The Great Barrier Reef is the most diverse marine ecosystem on the planet. One of the 7 natural wonders of the world, the reef runs for 3,000 kilometers along the northeast coast of Australia and spans an area the size of Germany. Over 9,000 animal species crowd together to reap the benefits of the food-rich waters. Among them are the sea snakes. 2 groups of sea snakes inhabit Australian waters. The sea kraits, like this banded sea krait, split their time between land and water. They go to shore to rest and breed, but take to the ocean to forage. In addition to getting their oxygen from the air like terrestrial snakes, sea snakes have a special function that allows them to stay underwater for hours at a time. Drawing oxygen from the water, they breathe through their skin. It's a finely tuned system, 10 million years in the making. time when some of Australia's terrestrial snakes began to transition to the sea. Incredibly, some species have evolved to become fully aquatic. Unlike other marine reptiles that must return to land to bear young, the olive sea snake spends its entire life cycle in the ocean. A flattened paddle-like tail propels it through the water. And special nostril valves prevent salt water entering its respiratory system while diving. Although their lives are vastly different, sea snakes do share some similarities with their land-based cousins. Armed with fangs and venom, they are notorious predators. Growing up to 2 meters in length, the olive sea snake is feared by many of the reef's smaller species. Until recently, little was known about the underwater sensory systems of sea snakes. But scientists have unlocked the secret. They have a sixth sense. Dome-shaped scales on the snake's head absorb vibrations emitted from their surroundings, allowing them to detect the slightest movement of nearby prey and nearby predators. With this super sense, it's difficult to hide from a hungry sea snake. If this fish thinks it's found a refuge, it's about to discover otherwise. With the longest fangs of any sea snake, the serpent grips its prey and delivers a blow of paralyzing toxins, which allows the snake to consume its meal immediately. Like its land-dwelling relatives, olive sea snakes are solitary creatures, only coming together when there's an important job to do. Breeding is a rare event in the life of a sea snake. With adults only reaching sexual maturity after the age of 3, and reproduction only taking place every 2nd year, it's possible that this duo are having their first romantic encounter. Once they have courted, the pair will mate. But the female won't lay eggs like most terrestrial snakes, as there is no way for them to incubate underwater. Instead, after an 11-month gestation period, she'll give birth to live young. While sea snakes are a remarkable adaptation success story, there are others who've evolved to cope with the continent's extremities in ways that must be seen to be believed. Mount Chapel Island is situated in the Bass Strait, an inhospitable stretch of sea between Tasmania and Australia. It's part of a group of islands that were once connected to the mainland, but broke away during the last ice age. As the land separated, some of the wildlife went with it. But with no fresh water, harsh winds and severe winters, only the toughest creatures survived. Chapel Island tiger snakes are one of few native animals to exist on the island. But due to the lack of food, they spend most of the year in torpor, only waking for the arrival of a meal. Growing up to 2.5 meters in length, the Chapel tiger snakes are about double the size of mainland tiger snakes, and they have double the appetite. Each spring, hundreds of thousands of short-tailed shearwaters descend on the island. After spending the winter feeding in northern waters, they return when the weather warms to breed. The birds make their nests in burrows. But it's risky business when there are starving giants about. After spending 9 months underground, the tiger snakes are emaciated. They are literally just skin and bones. This snake is weak, but if it waits any longer, it may miss the chance to eat. Chapel Island tiger snakes prey upon live chicks, but only of a certain size. Once the chicks are a few weeks old, they're too big for the snake to eat. So now is the window of opportunity. With each chick guarded by a parent, it's not an easily accessible meal. First, the snake must clear the way. A strike of deadly venom swiftly ends the adult's life. With the chick's protector taken care of, the snake can begin its feast. If the snake is to survive until next year, it must consume as much food as it can. In the next few weeks, it will gorge on 8 chicks. An astonishing consumption that has seen the Chapel Island tiger snakes evolve into a population of giants. On this continent of extremes, reptiles have learnt to adapt to the boom and bust rhythms of nature. In Australia's arid centre, it may be years between rains. But when the skies open up, the desert is a place reborn. The freshly drenched landscape doesn't only benefit the locals, it attracts visitors that come to reap the rewards. Budgerigars swarm to the desert. Able to sense rains from thousands of kilometers away, they journey here in giant superflocks. The abundance of fresh grass seed triggers a breeding frenzy. The budgies partner up. And a month later, they're busy rearing young. They make their nests in the privacy of tree hollows. Although they're shielded here, there's still reason for caution. The Woma python is the desert's most notorious constrictor. It's usually a reptile specialist. But when there are birds in abundance, it will make an exception. With a preference for cold-blooded prey, the woma doesn't have or need heat-sensing pits like other pythons. When it's after a meal, it relies on its sense of smell and sight. With a pointed head, womas are adept diggers. It's a skill usually reserved for entering abandoned animal burrows to shelter from the elements. But today, it's searching for a meal. A nest so close to the ground is a perfect target. With such powerful bodies, woma pythons can squash their prey against nest or burrow walls to subdue them. It uses its sharp teeth to hold the budgie mother in place. Then, using its muscular coils, the python takes her life. With no one left to defend the chicks, the python won't leave until it's made a meal of the whole family. While most reptiles must chase a meal during boom time, there's one that needn't bother. Year-round, the death adder employs a tactic where it makes its prey do all the hard work. This highly venomous snake wins meals via deception and trickery. Its secret weapon is its pale-colored tail, which resembles a juicy, wriggling grub. Once the adder finds the perfect hiding spot, all it has to do is wait for an unsuspecting passerby. Unlucky in this position, the adder seeks out another. Known for their patience, adders may wait in their hideouts days, even weeks for a meal. The snake senses the movement of a nearby skink and deploys its cunning trick. It lines up its tail to create a strike zone. The skink watches on curiously. Now that it has captured its target's attention, the adder repositions its tail. Placing it closer to its head will help to ensure a fail-proof strike. Thinking it's located a meal, the skink makes a move. Its prey is now within striking distance, and the adder waits. It wants its meal as close as possible. With one blow, the snake expels enough venom to paralyze the skink. Although this ambush required great patience, it required far less effort than going on the hunt. A great energy saver in this unpredictable desert landscape. While the cycles of the desert are wildly uncertain, in Australia's top end, it's a different story. Kakadu National Park is one of the world's most famous wetlands. Half the size of Switzerland, it's the largest national park on the continent. Here, the lives of animals are dictated by an annual monsoon and the tough times in between as they wait for the rains. Some of the planet's largest reptiles inhabit the waterways of Kakadu. Saltwater crocodiles can grow to a formidable 5 meters long. The territorial salties usually stay well away from one another. For most of the year, one croc will occupy a 2 square kilometer range. But it's been nearly 5 months since the last rains fell, and billabongs are drying up. The crocodiles are forced to seek out new pools of water to inhabit. But when a male unknowingly enters another male's territory, things can get a little heated. To settle a dispute, the resident male will put on an aggressive display to show the intruder who's boss. As the dry time progresses, Kakadu's cold-blooded residents dance with death. With temperatures nearing 50 degrees Celsius, heat stress is a serious risk. By covering themselves in mud, the crocodiles deflect some of the searing heat. The croc isn't the only one seeking refuge in the drying billabong. A semi-aquatic species, the file snake spends half its life in the water. But for the many dry months of the year, the snakes have adapted to live in the mud. Able to go 40 minutes without a breath, they bury themselves underground where it's cool and moist. Only surfacing when they need a vital oxygen top-up. These incredible adaptations ensure their survival until life-giving rains start to fall. Finally, the dry season skies give way to humidity, and the big wet arrives. The storms in Kakadu are some of the largest on Earth. As water drenches the Earth, the floodplains come back to life. Creatures who'd never typically venture out in the daylight make an appearance. The black-headed python usually spends the entire day in its burrow, but it heads straight to the nearest stream for some assistance with its shedding routine. The water helps to slough away old skin and scales. While submerged, the python takes the opportunity to recharge. Like a solar panel, its black head absorbs the sun's energy, powering it up to hunt down the influx of food brought by the rains. The monsoon is Kakadu's giver of life. But unfortunately, it can welcome some unwanted residents. During wet times, invasive cane toads breed in epic proportions. Females are capable of producing over 70,000 young a year. Since the toads were introduced to Australia in the 1930s, they have decimated native animal populations. Armed with venom-secreting glands, they're lethal to most creatures who encounter them. Some of the most vulnerable to their toxins are snakes that try to make a meal. However, one snake species has an extreme adaptation to deal with this extreme intruder. The keelback snake is entirely venomless, Yet it can eat the cane toad and survive. Incredible new studies reveal that the keelback has rapidly evolved into a toad-killing machine. In less than a century, the keelback's bodies have gotten bigger to metabolize their prey's toxins. And their heads have gotten smaller to limit the intake of food. The smaller the toad, the less poison to digest. A water specialist, keelbacks are primed to stake out the moist habitats the toads thrive in. Their ridge-like scales enable them to grip on as they traverse slippery surfaces, searching for a meal. As the toads invade in plague proportions, food is never far off. The keelback has no venom to subdue its prey. Its weapon is sharp, backward curved teeth that holds the meal in place. Unlike other snakes that swallow their food head first, the keelback does the opposite. It's thought that devouring the toads from the rear may be an adaptation to assist in detoxification. As humans struggle to control the worsening toad invasion, perhaps the death-defying keelback will be part of the solution. As one of the most biodiverse countries on Earth, it's no wonder Australian habitats nurture intriguing animal interactions. This is particularly true in tropical Queensland, where snakes and other forest dwellers crowd together to take advantage of the bountiful forests. The Queensland carpet python is an ambush hunter. Adorned with geometric patterns of light and shade, it blends seamlessly into the light-dappled forest. Usually, the carpet python would wait for a meal to pass by, then strike. But today, it has its eye on a different prize. Scrub turkey males are expert nest builders. In charge of incubating the eggs, they add and subtract sticks and leaves, ensuring the nest stays at just the right temperature. Eggs would be a big win for the python. But first, it must deal with the nest's owner. The turkey puts up a fight. Nest building is months of work, and he's not letting it go to waste. Some things are not worth fighting for, especially when your opponent is this feisty. Today, the python has learned a valuable lesson. Never mess with a scrub turkey dad and his mound. While the carpet python slips off to track down a meal in the canopy, there's another species doing the same in far north Queensland. The green tree python is an arboreal snake. A specially adapted prehensile tail allows it to climb and navigate the treetops with ease. And its dazzling green hue and yellow underbelly ensures it's well camouflaged amongst the foliage. Although the python only grows to 1.5 meters long, it's still a top forest predator. Its tapered-tailed tip also functions as bait. If there's a meal in range, the python may wriggle it to lure prey closer. An ambush hunter, it will seize the opportunity to eat any time. But night is the best time to hunt, with darkness providing the ultimate cover. In stealth mode, the python patrols the canopy. The heat-sensing pits in its upper lip help guide it towards its prey. Detecting warmth, the python moves towards a peaceful dove. As the predator slips along silently, the bird has no way of knowing what is about to happen. Long recurved teeth help hold the dove in place while it begins to constrict. It was long believed that victims were suffocated to death, but studies in the last decade reveal otherwise. The immense pressure of constriction cuts off blood supply, causing aneurysms and ultimately heart failure. Once the python senses the bird's heart is no longer beating, it begins to feast. Adapting to the extremities is the secret to success for wildlife here in Australia. And in Mount Etna National Park, there are snakes that have learnt to make the most of what they've got in a most surprising way. In summertime, when the heat and humidity is stifling, the park's limestone caves provide respite for little bent-wing bats. 80% of the country's population flock here to give birth. In these maternity roosts, females bear a single pup and nurse them over the summer months until they're strong enough to leave the cave. But there is a price the bats pay for their temperature-controlled nursing suite. A spotted python clings to the limestone walls as the female bats depart on their nightly foraging trip. Sensing the heat of the passing prey, the python times its assault to perfection. The snake crushes its victim to death. It is a skilled acrobatic predator. But this won't be the only fatality tonight. Known as the night tiger, the brown tree snake usually feeds by sneaking up on sleeping prey. But tonight it's taking advantage of the fly-through meal service on offer. Using venom, the snake subdues the bat before devouring it. But it's not only the adult bats that become prey. On the cave floor, an unsuspecting hunter patiently waits. A green tree frog. Each night as the adults leave in a flurry, bat pups can be knocked to the ground. An opportunity the frog seizes swiftly. The bats that defy the deadly jaws of the cave's inside predators are not entirely free from danger. Other snakes patrol the cave's entry point. A brown tree snake waits poised and ready. To capitalize on the bounty of food offered by these seasonal maternity roosts, local snakes have become specialist cave hunters. An astonishing example of opportunism and intelligence. In each corner of this diverse continent, snakes have learnt to thrive. Dominant predators in every ecosystem, they are a shining example of evolutionary adaptation at its best. From the country's harsh deserts, to its crowded tropical jungles, expansive underwater habitats, and out to its sub-Antarctic islands, the snakes have supremely and surprisingly adapted to whatever Mother Nature has thrown their way. Africa, a vast and wild continent, home to an array of vast and wild habitats. Here it's not easy to survive, but some have it all figured out. The snakes. They thrive all over. From waterless desert to dense jungles and the crowded savannas. Africa's snakes are experts in survival. And this is the story of how they supremely and surprisingly adapted to dominate each corner of one of Earth's wildest continents. Sprawling savannas cover more than half the entire continent of Africa. And here on the continent's most famous savanna, the Serengeti, it's the cusp of the wet season. The land is dry, food is scarce, and animals make the most of slim pickings as they wait for the rains to arrive. Africa's vast grasslands are some of the most fertile on Earth and give life to animals in masses found nowhere else in the world. Although the megafauna may steal the limelight, look closer, and there are others who thrive here too. Almost 600 snake species inhabit Africa, and today, one has emerged with an appetite only months of dry could bring. The black mamba is the world's fastest land snake and Africa's deadliest. Able to move faster than a human can run, it speeds along in search of food. Its only real threat is the hooves of the animals that share its habitat. To avoid being trampled, it whips through the grass with its head raised. If anyone should get too close, they are warned. The black mamba bears the black, inky insides of its mouth it's famous for. A signal to back off, or else. It's a terrifying display, but one that must be toned down when a meal presents itself. The black mamba locks onto the scent of a rat emerging from its burrow. With few places to hide in the open savanna, the snake must figure out how to remain unseen. Just as at home in the treetops as it is on the ground, it stealthily navigates the canopy, searching for the perfect vantage point to scope out its prey. The rat is unaware of the watchful eyes from above, allowing the snake to inch closer and closer. Until it reaches the perfect ambush position. One blow is all that's needed. Just 2 drops of a black mamba's venom can kill a creature the size of a human. The snake waits as paralyzing toxins take effect on its victim. A quick nudge to ensure the rat is immobile, and the snake begins its feast. Swallowing the rat the same way as the grain of the fur helps the meal slip down without hassle. Even before the food is swallowed, digestion begins. The snake's venom contains enzymes that are already working to break down the rat. After its lunch, the black mamba finds a sunny retreat. A meal this size could last the snake weeks. But another opportunity to eat may arrive sooner than expected. Clouds build and thunder echoes across the plains. A sign the monsoon has arrived. An event that signals the masses are on the move. Over 1 million animals continually migrate across the Serengeti Mara ecosystem, in what is known as the Great Migration. Wildebeest are joined by a host of others as they move towards water and fresh grass. It's a time of plenty, not only for the herbivores who have come to graze, but the carnivores too. The savanna's largest reptiles, the crocodiles, patrol the rivers. As the herds cross, the crocs launch their assaults. But for every life lost, plenty more are born. The good times are a time to breed, and the circle of life is sustained. But with offspring in tow, animal parents must be wary. Amidst the grass, a 7-meter African rock python stirs from a midday bask. Recently mated, she has eggs forming inside her. And she's after one final feed before returning to her maternal nest. African rock pythons are the largest snakes on the continent. Weighing up to 90 kilograms, they have enormous appetites to match. Using her tongue, the python detects the odor of food in the air. Impala and gazelle parents supervise their offspring at a nearby waterhole. The youngsters of the group would make a perfect-sized meal. But with her huge size, how will she remain concealed on her approach? The swamp provides the perfect cover. As she advances, her targets are none the wiser. But timing is everything. If she moves too soon, she may startle them and lose her chance to eat. She opts to fully submerge herself. An adept swimmer, she can stay in the water for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to launch her assault. She surfaces to choose her prey. The juvenile gazelle on the group's periphery. In a matter of seconds, the youngster is entrapped in the python's coils. Incredibly, she can accommodate prey 3 times the size of her skull. Using hundreds of razor-sharp backward-facing teeth, she forces the food towards her stomach. It will take weeks for her digestive system to break the carcass down. Hooves, horns, and all. But that timing is just perfect for this mother-to-be. Almost a month later, the female is ready to lay her eggs. The energy she gained from her prize meal will sustain her through one of the most important times in her life: motherhood. She has chosen the burrow carefully, as she'll not only lay her eggs here, she'll stay to incubate them and raise her young when they hatch. She is the only egg-laying snake on Earth to mother its offspring. For the first 2 weeks of the snakelet's lives, the female will stay with them to keep them warm and will only venture out to replenish her energy stores in the sun. Child rearing will cost the female 40% of her body weight. It's not yet entirely understood why the African rock python mothers its young, but it's thought it may have to do with the cooler climate of their habitats. Although many of the savanna's snakes have carved out niches on the ground, there are some that have adapted to life above the grassland floor. In the southern extremes of the savanna lives a highly skilled arboreal specialist, the boomslang, the deadliest rear-fanged snake in the world. Adorned with rough, ridged scales, it navigates the canopy with ease. And with its cloak of camouflage and excellent vision, it rarely fails at a hunt. But there is a first time for everything. Especially when your target is as equally equipped. There is no better master of camouflage than the chameleon. The ability to change color to match its surroundings helps it to hide from predators like snakes. But right now, its focus is not on predators, but prey. 360 vision gives the chameleon a precise read of its surroundings. Once a meal is spotted, the chameleon uses its swiveling eyes to line up a shot. A retractable tongue the size of its body does all the hard work. It's an energy-efficient hunting method that always delivers. But no matter how good the meal, it always pays to keep an eye or two out. The boomslang has spotted dinner of its own. Sensing the snake's movement, the chameleon employs a disguise tactic. By swaying as it walks, it mimics a leaf swaying in the breeze. But the boomslang's arsenal is just as powerful. To remain unseen, the snake stretches out and sways, as if a branch blowing in the wind. The chameleon morphs color. A war of camouflage. When it's sure the threat has passed, the chameleon continues on. But by moving, it blows its cover. The boomslang zeroes in. Instead of a quick strike, the snake deploys a strong bite. Its grooved, rear-facing fangs hold the prey in place as it delivers its final assault. With each deliberate motion, venom trickles down its fangs and into the chameleon. Rather than acting on the nervous system, the venom destroys red blood cells, causing brain and muscle hemorrhaging. And just like that, the camouflage war is declared won. Fringing Africa's vast savannas are some of the most hostile deserts on Earth. Here in the Namib, where endless plains of scorching sand meet the sea, it seems impossible that any life could survive. Yet it does, because animals have found inventive ways to do so. There is virtually no surface water in the Namib. Fog that rolls in from the ocean produces droplets of condensation, which provide this palmato gecko with much-needed hydration. This drink should see the gecko survive another day under the blistering sun. But here, threats not only come from above. A Perengues desert adder launches an attack. Prey is the only way for the adder to get the vital water it needs. To sustain itself, it will need to seek out more prey. Temperatures in the peak of the day can reach a blazing 50 degrees. To avoid being burned by the hot sand, the adder has a unique way of getting around. It moves along in a sidewinding motion. This ensures the adder only ever has 2 points of its body on the ground at any time, reducing the amount of surface contact. A shovel-snouted lizard emerges with a similar tactic. It's quick on its feet to avoid burning them. But its footfalls haven't gone unnoticed. The adder prepares for ambush. By shifting from side to side, it conceals itself beneath the sand, leaving one eye exposed for the lookout. The adder waits patiently. As soon as it detects the lizard's vibrations, it launches its ambush. The adder releases a surge of cytotoxic venom. Although not as deadly as other venoms, it's enough to immobilize prey. The lizard is still alive as the adder ingests it. With a higher water content than desert geckos, the lizard is a prized drink. One that will keep the adder satiated for the rest of the day. The Namib isn't the only inhospitable place African snakes have adapted to thrive in. Further south lies the Great Kalahari, the land of thirst. On these expansive semi-arid plains, prey is scarce. But the Cape Cobra has adapted to make the most of a unique opportunity. In the desert trees, sociable weaver birds build gigantic nests. The advantage of such a huge structure is that it protects the birds from the desert elements. This communal style of nesting also provides an advantage for the cobra, an all-you-can-eat buffet. But when things sound too good to be true, they usually are. The plains are home to a variety of temperamental residents, whom the cobra must contend with on its daily commute. A lioness catches sight of the snake. But as the cobra tries to warn her off, she's intrigued by the display. The cobra gives her a final warning. But the lioness wants one more round of fun. Finally, the cobra is allowed to pass, one step closer to its meal. But there's another roadblock. Crossing paths with meerkats is never easy. With pups in their care, the adults are more aggressive than usual. But the cobra isn't going to let a testy meerkat family stand in the way of a good meal. By flaring its neck, the cobra tells its hecklers to back off. Immune to most snake venom, the meerkats aren't afraid. Wanting to conserve energy, the cobra makes a break for it. Its tormentors are glad to see it go. Inside the sociable weaver nest, several generations of birds reside in dozens of chambers. The only challenge left today is deciding where to begin the feast. While much of Africa is characterized by wide open space, at the heart of the continent lies a habitat that's worlds apart. The Congo Basin covers an area the size of Alaska. It's here the famous River Congo drains, giving life to the planet's second largest tropical forest. In this rich habitat, resources are plentiful. But with big bounty, come big crowds. Everyday competition for food and shelter is fierce. And those who get ahead are those with the most ingenious adaptations. The Gaboon viper is Africa's largest venomous viper. Weighing in at 20 kilograms and reaching 2 meters in length, it's a formidable force. A set of horns gives it superior sensory abilities. Scientists believe the horns may pick up chemical signals and vibrations in the air and on the ground. All the better to help the viper find a meal in the crowded forest. But horns aren't the only weapon this predator has in its arsenal. The viper is armed with the longest fangs of any venomous snake. Inch-long, needle-like and hinged, they can be deployed in an instant with lethal results. Despite its deadly traits, the Gaboon viper wouldn't have much luck chasing after a meal. With a slow, hefty body, it's far better suited to an ambush. Patterned scales provide excellent camouflage, allowing the viper to virtually disappear into the forest floor. The timing is superb. A quail emerges, foraging for insects in the undergrowth. As the bird moves about, the viper senses its vibrations, but it lays dead still, waiting for the prey to come nearer. Thanks to its super-sensing horns and sharp eyesight, the viper receives all the information it needs to plan its assault. The speed of the strike gives the quail no chance to escape. The viper pumps venom into its prey. It's a deadly concoction that destroys blood cells and tissue. To swallow the bird, feathers and all, is a huge job. To do so, the viper opens its elastic-like jaws to their full capacity. As the viper pushes the bird down its throat, it shifts its glottis outward, enabling it to inhale much-needed oxygen while eating. To aid digestion, the viper will find a place to retreat, while its body diverts its resources to processing the meal. In the forests of the Congo, there are a higher concentration of animals than anywhere else in Africa. There is little privacy. Someone is always watching and ready to sound the alarm if they see something they don't like. This ball python has attracted unwanted attention from its primate neighbors. Shy by nature, attention is the last thing a ball python needs. Luckily, it has a way to diffuse the situation. It curls into a tight ball, a ploy to appear non-threatening. For the finishing touch, it tucks its head away. In this shape, the python could easily pass for a mound of leaves. And with a bit of luck, its harassers will think just that. While a temporary disguise might work a treat for the ball python, there's another forest snake who wears a permanent disguise. The twig snake is aptly named. With its cryptic coloration and bark-like scales, it's nearly invisible as it prowls the canopy. But this female isn't looking for food amongst the branches. She's using the height to get a good view of the ground and anyone who should pass by. She detects a skink basking in the sun. Although her coloring provides some disguise, the snake will need to use another tactic to remain unseen on her approach. As she nears her target, she gently sways like a twig in the breeze. The snake lines up her shot. With one strike, she releases hemotoxic venom, ending the skink's life. A true tree specialist, she swallows her food while hanging from the branches. She is the perfect silent assassin, and her watchful neighbors are none the wiser. Life in a crowded habitat is about making the most of every opportunity. In neighboring Uganda, forests cover a mere 20% of the landscape. In small pockets of woodlands, competition is high. And when it comes to finding a meal, it pays to use every trick in the book. The forest cobra is Africa's largest cobra. Growing up to 3 meters, they are dominant forest predators. They make light work of lizards, birds, and mammals that cross their path. But today, something new has caught this female's attention. The forest's dry for most part of the year. She's used to hunting on land. But for a meal, she'll give anything a go. The cobra sizes up the fare on offer. A school of catfish. But fishing is not her expertise, so she'll need some time to figure this out. She scans the pool, trying to line up a target. but it's hard to do when your targets are this slippery. She submerges her head, attempting to pick up chemical cues. But she's still not confident she can execute a waterborne strike. So she opts for a drink instead. The key to survival in Africa is all about making the most of what the landscape deals you. Back in the sprawling savannas of the east, the monsoon has passed and the land is dry once again. It won't stay this way for long. A second rainy season is on the way. Springbok males fight for control over mating territory. They breed towards the end of the drier months, so that their young will be born when the savanna is yet again flush with food. Rain transforms the plains once more. Grazers waste no time feasting on grass. All around the savanna, creatures make the most of the good times. Rodents breed in huge numbers. The African pouch rat regularly leaves its burrow to forage for food to take back to its family. But such missions don't come without risk. A hunter lurks, ready to take advantage of the prey explosion. The puff adder is one of Africa's most formidable ambush predators. Its scales provide exceptional concealment. But they are famous for much more than camouflage. The puff adder has one of the most violent strikes of all snakes. And they do it with fangs that are so long, they need to be folded into their mouth. Energy stored in the fangs ejects them like a spring, enabling the adder to deliver a fatal blow in just 0.25 of a second. As the rat continues on its daily forage, the adder picks up its scent and immediately goes about finding the perfect ambush position. To remain discreet, it moves in a low-range 4x4 motion. Using large belly scales called scoots, it inches itself forward, silently and stealthily. Keeled scales on the adder's side provide grip and traction as it goes. As the adder senses it's close, it moves into position. The rat stumbles into the adder's range. It has no way of knowing what lays in wait. And it's not only due to the adder's physical disguise. Recently, scientists have discovered the puff adder is capable of chemical disguise. Able to mask its own scent, it is impossible for prey and predators to know they are in the company of a puff adder. The adder releases its monstrous fangs, injecting tissue-destroying toxins into the rat. Once it senses the rat is immobile, it makes its approach. A large gape allows the adder to swallow its catch whole. Chemical cloaking will ensure the puff adder eats well during the second time of plenty. The second rainy season coincides with the start of spring. Migratory birds fly in from afar to raise their families amidst the plentiful grasslands. Resident birds like the spotted thickney build ground nests. But they must always be on high alert, as the plains are home to a snake whose diet is eggs, and eggs only. This female rhombic egg eater has emerged to make the most of the springtime bounty. During the dry months, she hasn't eaten much, and now she is hungry. As she scours the savanna floor, she gets lucky. An unsupervised spotted thickney nest. But parents never leave the nest for long. If the snake is to eat, she must make her move now. Small ridges in her throat help her to grasp the slippery shell. Once swallowed, she holds the egg in her esophagus, where it's punctured by tiny vertebral spikes. As the shell is pierced and crushed, the contents are gradually squeezed into her stomach. Once she has extracted all she can, she does away with the shell. There is no need to spend weeks digesting something that has little nutritional value. And besides, in this time of abundance, she needs as much room in her stomach as possible to devour as many eggs as she can. Africa's snakes have supremely adapted to survive the ever-changing rhythms of their habitats. And between the sprawling savannas and crowded forests is a place where snakes have some of the most extreme adaptations of all. The Great Drakensberg mountain range runs for over 1,000 kilometers, parallel to Africa's southeastern coast. And below the soaring mountain peaks lives a snake-eating specialist, the secretary bird. Its scientific name means the archer of snakes. And what makes this bird of prey so feared is that it spends most of its life on the ground. Hunting by foot, it scours the plains for food. If there's no snake in sight, a lizard or grasshopper will do. Using its giant legs, the bird stamps the life out of its victim before consuming it. Its kick is one of the most powerful in the animal kingdom, delivering a blow 5 to 6 times its body weight. Growing up to nearly 1.5 meters tall, secretary birds are able to take on large prey, like young cheetahs and gazelles. So, if an animal the size of a snake is to survive an attack from a secretary bird, it must have its wits about it. Wits is something the Ringcow's cobra has in spades. The Ringcow's first line of defense is a concoction of paralyzing and tissue-destroying venom. But when faced with a large predator like a secretary bird, executing a bite is far too risky. It takes time, and time is not on your side when under attack. Specially modified fangs with forward-facing discharge holes enable the cobra to spit its venom. The aim is to send it flying into its attacker's eyes. To get a good shot, the cobra must rear up and fling its body forward. If it hits the target, it will cause instant debilitation and potentially blindness, sending the predator on its way. Unfortunately, the Ringcow's technique doesn't always ensure the best aim. But luckily, they have a solid backup plan. Theatrics. The cobra slowly turns limp, rolls itself over, and positions its mouth agape. A ploy to fake its own death. It's an Oscar-worthy performance that ensures predators clear off in search of a fresher meal, leaving the cobra to resurrect itself and get on with its day. While the Ringcow's cobra has found success in an alternative line of defense, one of its close relatives has taken the art of flying venom to an entirely new level. Further north in Mozambique, forests cover nearly half the landmass, and they are home to a cobra with the best aim of all: the Mozambique spitting cobra. Always able to line up and execute a perfect shot, they are feared by both animals and humans who cross them. Today, this female is in search of prey. She's locked onto the scent of a marsh frog, one of her favorite meals. As she hunts, she must not only stay alert to her target, but others who may be watching. Mongoose reside here, and they are known to fiercely prey on snakes. The cobra nears her target, but it's not going to be an easy catch. As she follows the frog, she stumbles into the path of a group of banded mongoose. To this feisty pack, the cobra is a prized meal. A bite from the cobra would do little to deter the aggressive pack. They are mostly immune to her venom, so she must resort to craftier measures. She rears up to get a precise read on the location of her attackers' heads. In just a fifth of a second, she locates their eyes and spits. With her venom holes positioned at right angles, she doesn't need to throw her body to get a good shot. It shoots out horizontally. Able to spray venom up to 40 times in a row, she continues her assault. Her aim, to blind as many of her harassers as she can. Bullseye. Just one tiny drop of venom on the cornea will cause unbearable pain. Once she senses the coast is clear, she resumes her hunt. Luckily, the marsh frog hasn't strayed too far. Her smooth scales allow her to approach silently. To the very last second, she remains undetected. As she bites down, her fangs release jets of powerful venom. She waits for a combination of toxins to take effect. At last, she gets what she set out to do: the chance to eat. Research reveals that spitting cobras first developed the mechanism as protection, not only against animals, but the earliest humans, our ancient hominid ancestors. Today, as human impact threatens much of Africa's wildlife, the snakes have never needed their defenses more. With habitat loss and living in close proximity to humans, it's harder than ever for many snakes to survive. Around 20 African snake species are considered vulnerable or threatened due to environmental destruction. A further 42 species are regularly sold in the exotic pet trade. With these challenges only growing, many of Africa's snakes face a difficult future. But with conservation efforts, they will continue to flourish, as they have done for millennia, evolving to thrive in the myriad of habitats of their vast and wild continent, and adapting to the ever-changing rhythms of Mother Nature.